Welcome to SVGTV's news for Wednesday, July 13th, 2022. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. Prime Minister Dr. Alf Gansov says he is awaiting the details about information that has emerged regarding the development of the luxury hotel at Peters Hope. Earlier this week, it was revealed that a company had signed a binding paperwork that will result in a change in the ownership of the project. Speaking on Star Radio, PM Gansov revealed that the construction work at the Peters Hope Resort had restarted, and any new information will be made available to him.
I don't know the details, so I await information on the details. What I know is that there's a company which has an alien landholding license with conditions attached to that license.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? That's
yes.
what I know.
Okay, yes. Very well.
No, you can always have one company taking over another, but the operational company may well be the same company which has the alien landholding license.
Yes.
So I guess I'll find out the details. Well, they had said to me that they would restart after Carnival. Well, now we're after Carnival, so I will see shortly after Carnival. So I will see what is happening. Whether it's this week to start in next week or August, we'll see.
Very well.
They presented a plan. Aspects of the plan I wasn't satisfied with in terms of the pace, and I had made that known. All right. So that's as far as I know.
Agriculture Minister Saboto Caesar says rural transformation must be placed at the forefront of economic development in SVG and calls on the people to be more transformative in this regard. Minister Caesar, who was at the time speaking on NBC Radio's face-to-face program this morning, says the Argyle International Airport has expanded opportunities available to Vincentians.
Changing scenes in our country. And just like when I was attending the St. Martin Secondary School, driving to school in the back of Mr. Best's van on the left-hand side, coming down, so I was always looking at Argyle, you know, that whole Argyle long stretch. Remember, that was a part of our vernacular.
Yes.
People would speak about Argyle long stretch. It was a part of the geography. And the sea grapes is either the grape trees, the picnic spot, or where you used to have the Guinness power jams there. And I never knew that will be the place where 25 years in the future I was going to land on a direct flight from Heathrow. And I'm saying all of this because I want for our citizens to become excited about possibilities and opportunities. You will look at a parcel of land today, but the question is, how are we going to transform that parcel of land for our benefit as a people and for the benefit of future generations?
Minister Caesar also says SVG's economic growth is dependent on people working hard.
That we need to spend a lot more time as individuals reflecting on how we can work with policymakers and work with the government, work with the different ministries to participate in active conversations and discussions. Because at the end of the day, you can either get monies by two ways. You're either going to work for it legally, or you're going to ask for it. And I'm talking about legal ways. And we are promoting hard work. We are promoting industry. And to work hard and to have the levels of industry needed to grow an economy, you have to have vision, you have to have foresight, and you have to have drive. You can't want to build a country. We can't want to build a country if on a morning the economically active age group who's supposed to be pushing the work at 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock we're still sleeping. We decide we're going to turn up at work late. Or if you're serving in a restaurant, simple things. The tourists will come in and the ketchup bottle is empty. Because whatever we do is a reflection on our people.
The minister added that he has seen a number of improvements over the years in the agricultural sector, and he is encouraging Vincentians to improve their standards to become globally competitive.
We really want to encourage all Vincentians that we have to continue to lift our game. I must say that over the years I've seen significant advancements, but we are living in a globally competitive world. And let's take, for example, a cruise ship. It's coming to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That cruise ship is passing through different ports. And at each port, the services rendered, it is creating a certain impact on the psyche of the passengers. And when they get back on the cruise ships on an evening, they will sit at their dinner tables, and what we want for them to say, Johnny P, is that they will compare and they will contrast. We want them to say, we enjoyed St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The hospitality was there. The professionalism from the immigration officers, from all, that it was there. Because sometimes people have the view that just having good policies without people to implement them.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries, Sabota Caesar, says he believes that education and agriculture are two sectors that should go hand in hand. Minister Caesar says a number of excellent farmers who were birthed during the era that education was not available to many persons. He says despite what many may believe, farming is a prestigious profession.
Today, production and productivity from every angle is important, and I don't want anybody to say that farming is not a prestigious job. It is a prestigious job because it goes to the issue of food security and food sovereignty, and I'll come to that when I address the issue of the markets. So what we are seeing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines today, there are many persons who are accessing education at all levels, and it's filtering down into the communities. When somebody is sick in a village now, you're not hearing them say, let us rush here, rush there. They take out their cell phone. My auntie, daughter is a doctor, or my sister is a doctor, or my brother is a doctor. They'll make a WhatsApp call to a family doctor first, and family doctor not being the doctor for the family, you know. Right. But is a member of the family. And that is important and very significant. I was speaking to a father from the community I grew up, and he said to me, he sent me the results. His daughter just graduated as a medical doctor, and she's now going off to do a master's in a particular area. Right. So we are witnessing in St. Vincent and the Grenadines the birth of a cadre of young professionals.
Minister Caesar is encouraging young professionals who have completed their studies in agriculture and have a wealth of knowledge to take advantage of the open door policy at the Ministry of Agriculture, which allows them to visit and make suggestions to improve the sector.
To note to all young professionals in the country that I have a very open door policy. If you are a student of agriculture, whether you're studying or you've completed your studies, and you look at what we are doing in the ministry and you have things that you want to suggest, come into the ministry, speak to us, give us the information. You don't have to be a worker in the ministry to offer a suggestion, because we are witnessing currently a system that was inherited 1979 and even before that, where the state not only control the regulatory aspects of agriculture, plant quarantine and these things, but also the state played a very important role in driving production. And that's why you had the Arrowroot Association, government, Input Warehouse, government, you had the Banana Growers Association, government, the Farmer Support Company, government. You have different companies that were established you had the marketing corporation, the government, but we are at a stage, Johnny P, where we want to put the ownership in the hands of Vincentians. And we want for persons who are returning from their studies not to see the state as the only possible employer, but to look at the list of opportunities which are before them and to speak to the policymakers, to speak to the technicians, to write their letters to the cabinet and say, I have returned from my studies, there's an opportunity here, I want to become an entrepreneur. How can the government partner or create the enabling environment for me to thrive?
The minister is also urging people to come out to the farmers' meetings, which are held in various communities, even if they are not professionally involved in farming, as there are a number of topics that are discussed and may benefit them.
As a ministry, the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, in Industry and Labor, we usually do an overall invitation to everyone to come out. And we're asking the young persons in the communities, you might hear a farmers meeting advertised, and you say, well, I am an economist, I'm not going to a farmers meeting. Well, I'm telling you, the opportunities on international trade in commodities from St. Vincent and the Grenadines and joint ventures which could be had with other countries, those are the things that we are discussing.
In other news now, a number of parents are now on the fence following news that St. Vincent and the Grenadines has received over 4,000 doses of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccines intended for children ages 5 to 11 years old. Our news team spoke to a number of parents today, most of whom chose to remain off camera and express concern that taking the COVID-19 vaccines may soon become mandatory in order for children to attend school.
That the public health is important, and from time to time there are decisions made for the public good, and when sometimes for the public good, I will support it. All right? So if it means that we're all to be vaccinated, including children, so be it. What is the alternative? You know, so we can't possibly know the real effects of it because everybody dealing with it as it is very fluid, you know, but everybody's doing the best they can.
Because they don't take the vaccine already when they were small growing up. When they're going into secondary school or primary school, they take another shot from the clinic. So then I don't think now they should have another vaccine come out for the children and them. Because even us take the vaccine, we have little complication, then we don't know what will happen to those small children. So I don't think I definitely have a problem.
I am 100% against getting our children vaccinated, and I stand by that. I have seen the statistics from the adults, whereas the persons who are vaccinated, you can still contract the virus, you can still pass it on, you can still be hospitalized, and most of all, you can still die from the virus. So why should we as parents subject our children to such, right? And my children, they will not be taking any vaccine.
A number of parents rejected the idea of having their children vaccinated. However, they noted that if it becomes mandatory or a mandatory requirement in order to receive an education, they will reconsider. Other parents told our news team even if a vaccination mandate is put in place for students, they will allow their children to go unvaccinated until they are more comfortable.
Because it's an experiment, I don't feel that it is right to give children under the age because they don't know the outcome up to now. Understand? So basically, it's a no-no for me.
Kids don't have their own choice to make to say that they want the vaccine or not. Regardless, we know pros and cons and still leave it to us. They can't force it on us.
I'm not sure about how I feel about it, but I don't think I would let my child take the vaccine. If it's compulsory, I would go through with it, but if I have a choice, I wouldn't do it.
I personally, if because if they don't take it, they cannot go to school, well, then I don't have an option. They have to take it because education is valid right now. So, but I definitely don't think that the children and them should take the vaccine.
Vaccination 2022 was a success despite a number of hiccups. This is according to Minister of Culture Carlos James speaking on API's morning program today. James says despite the limited time frame due to uncertainties about the COVID-19 pandemic, stakeholders were able to execute a successful festival. Mass band leaders and event promoters had a 3-month window to prepare for Vaccination 2022 after approval was granted by local medical authorities in March.
Few kinks here and there because after 2 years of not having a Vaccination, the short period of time in which all of the stakeholders within the industry had to really bring a full-scale carnival. Limited time to mass men worked around the clock. You know, we had persons producing in studios, and it was one of the elements of it. I would think that by and large we had a successful carnival for the very reason that everyone came together and said we're going to make this happen this year with just a few weeks or a few months to plan. So you know, we executed, and you know, kudos to the CDC and all of the stakeholders within the festival.
Minister James says he was most impressed by the hard work the band leaders put in to prepare masqueraders for the road.
What I must say, the mass men who are mass bands, who initially when we had the first meeting, we said, well, we're not sure whether we're going to have a full-scale carnival. Are you interested in building costumes in the event that we may have a carnival, whether in a smaller form or in the large scale? And they were ready. A few of them were a bit skeptical about it, but you know, in terms of time, sourcing of materials. But they said, look, we're committed to this thing. We are culture. And I personally loved, I visited some of the mass bands, and the resilience that came through from our stakeholders who, you know, gave their energy and time to ensuring that, you know, we had a carnival. So, you know, all of the stakeholders, I think, are to be commended.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is set to host its first webinar on digital transformation and emerging technologies for stakeholders in the cultural and creative industry. The webinar, dubbed Unlocking the Metaverse, is a first-time collaboration between Meta, the company that owns Facebook, and an OECS country. The forum is geared towards Vincentians acquiring knowledge on the use of new technologies to earn revenue. Local advisor to the Metaverse project, Calver Jones, says the webinar will be beneficial for all persons, not only those who are involved in art and music.
So it's anybody that has a retail store, the parent who is looking for the economic viability of the career choice of their child going off to university, any person who travels for meetings, because one of the functions of the metaverse or use case scenarios as it stands is for virtual meetings. Mm-hmm. Anybody who is a tourism stakeholder, because virtual tourism is also a big aspect that is part of the metaverse experience. So somebody in Japan can come to St. Vincent virtually, and then they can go somewhere else, all in a matter of a space of 5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So when you look at how of what we do right now, it's just a digital replica of that, but with the seamlessness of the challenges that it doesn't have the challenges that we now experience in the physical world of having to travel and dealing with the hassle of anything.
For creatives who operate mainly during the carnival season, Jones says the webinar will teach them about how they can use technology to earn revenue outside of the festival.
For the mass men, if they produce a particular design, mm-hmm. they can sell that design with proof of ownership to a particular stakeholder somewhere else in the world. Maybe somebody who does carnival, and as you know, our mass is exceptional. When you look at the kings and the queens of carnival and the level of quality that these are produced with, these, and again, because of that lull from carnival to carnival, whoever else has a festival in between that time can license these via what we call NFT, which is a non-fungible token. That is again based on the blockchain technology. that is an item that is available to these persons to license. So again, there's the economic opportunities are increased.
Jones explained how mass man leaders can sell their designs to other costume designers overseas.
Verse, as estimated up to 2024, represents an $800 billion industry. We cannot afford to stay out of that. Right? Just $1 billion would do miracles for our economy, as we all know. Right? And the situation is, I think, past the initial statement that the minister made, because some of them had said, well, they wondered how you can virtual wine in Carnival, and that was at the time the focus. Right? Now, I think the focus has shifted because that initial statement made people go and research, and because of the different interviews that we have had and the different information that is out there, for instance, Meta and all these companies like Microsoft, Amazon, everybody is invested in a metaverse project, and people realize that it's a serious business. It's just that, here the learning curve on technology, for instance, is somewhat of a challenge at times, but we have been taking the leading edge. And with that said, there's an aspect of the metaverse awareness that we have embarked on, and for some time we have actually been having, and that's the gamification of a lot of the aspects of our culture as we practice them.
Jones said the interest in the metaverse is increasing among Vincentians, adding it is critical that persons in the cultural industry capitalize on available opportunities. A little over a week, 15 young Vincentians will participate in the first Youth Parliament on July 21st in the House of Assembly. The group is primarily comprised of students from the secondary schools, while the speaker is a student of the community college and the clerk of the House is a primary school student. The Speaker of the House, Rochelle Ford, is spearheading the training of the students along with staff at the House of Assembly. In an interview with the Agency for Public Information, the API, Ford said this forum gives young people first-hand knowledge of how the highest decision-making body in the land functions. Ford also said it is the intention of the House that the interest around the Youth Parliament is triggered across all sectors of St. Vincent and the Grenadines school population. The Youth Parliament forms part of the community outreach program of the House of Assembly.